in your system for your glass a little. Expose current events, talk trash a little. You never know, these opinions might crash a little. They addicted to the content, got them binge watching. You don't like it, then you want invited. Bet your friends watching in the house and your job parking out before you clock in. They don't want to miss a second of this HG content.
Everybody think they got something to say though.
It's an open invitation, bring it to the table. But if you come whack, just know we ain't buying it. We gon' probably turn it back until you say
try again. Hey.
Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable. Yeah, welcome to the hood table. You don't need Netflix, you don't need cable.
Hey everybody, welcome to another night at the hood table. Y'all know how we do on your way in. Act like y'all got some proper home training. You can talk in the chat. You can say hello in the chat. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you share the video. If you are not subscribed to the hood table, especially if you are from the O to the N to the E and the 402, please subscribe to the hood table. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. For those of you who've never been to my YouTube channel, my name is Tanya from Tanya's Primetime TV. And from Tanya's Delight Slice by Slice. A lot of y'all know me as a cake decorator in Omaha. A lot of y'all know me from Tanya's Primetime TV reviews. And a lot of y'all know me from the hood table. But anyway, feel free to subscribe to any of those channels. Follow me on YouTube, IG, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you. And again, make sure you guys like the video on the way in. Tonight we are going to, as the title says, we are going to get into the true Omaha, Nebraska crime thriller book written by Brian Bognoff. It's called Three Bodies Burning. It is about a triple murder from the year of 2005. The book is actually available in a lot of places. For some of y'all who have not read it, please feel free, go on Amazon, download it on Kindle for like $5 and something. That's what I did. But I actually read the book years ago, like a lot of people, especially those of us in Omaha, Nebraska. A lot of us read this book years ago, but this story is coming upon the 15th year of the triple murder in Omaha, Nebraska. And I thought it would be kind of cool if I broke out the book again and we actually did a live review on the book. So again, we are going to be reviewing the book. Let me take out my gum. That's so rude. Hold on. Okay. So, and again, if some of y'all been following me before, y'all know when I do reviews, I do really in-depth reviews. This is not no 1-2 hitter quitter that you get. So we're going to be here for a minute. Those of y'all who, feel free, grab you a drink, grab you some popcorn, grab you some hot skins. Because we're going to be here for a second, at least about an hour, unless, we start getting into some conversations or anything like that. Again, feel free to comment in the chat. If you are from the O and you know of anything that I'm speaking about, feel free to talk about it, in the chat. It's up to you. Don't be shy. Again, we are going to be doing part 1. Book review. We are only going over chapters 1 through 19. There are 54 chapters in this book. So what we are going to do tonight, we're going to review chapters 1 through 19. Next Friday, we're going to review chapters 20 through like 37, something like that. And the Friday after that, we're going to review the end of the book, which is like chapters 38 through 54. After we finish the final review, the 4th Friday, we are going to go over the conclusion of the book and of the story. Hey, Teresa Patman. Hey, thank you, love, for chopping it up in the chat with me. Thank you. Again, feel free, you guys, to chop it up in the chat. Say hi, hello, or, add to the book review by whatever you know, whatever you read, whatever you think is interesting. But, yeah, thank you, Teresa, for joining us tonight. Good evening to you, too. I've been in contact with the author of the book, and I hit him up because I thought it would be a cool idea after we finish our 4-week book review series to interview him live on the hood table. and he accepted. He is actually anxious to come onto the hood table and do an interview with us. And we're basically going to, chop it up with him, talk about his experience, dealing with the investigation, dealing with the book, what he's been up to after the book. By now he's retired. So, just catch up with, Brian and see what he's been up to. So anyway, you said definitely I never knew it was a book. I need a copy. Yo, girl. Again, if you want to, you can download it on Kindle. It is only like $5 and some change. That's what I did. So I got it on my little iPad and on my cell phone, and that's what I've been reading it on. Years ago, I think I checked it out at the library, and then I had to give it back. But yeah, you can find the book anywhere. But anywho, we're gonna start off this conversation on this book review. I'm gonna give you a little background information on the detective, his little history. I'm gonna do a little history lesson. I'm gonna take a few minutes of our time to do that, so you guys can know a little something about the detective who was over the investigation. A lot of these names in here, well, actually all of these names in here, I know the real people, like the criminals in the story, the dead people in the story, the cops in the story, the investigators. I know the real names, but in the book, they give aliases. They got like different names, even different nicknames. So every name that I mentioned in this book review is not a real name. So just want you guys to know they are real people. They just got fake names. Anybody who's close to the story might be related to the story. I got people who are Facebook friends who are close to the story. So y'all know like the real names of the people who I'm referring to every time I speak of something. But just to let y'all know, the nicknames, the cops' names, everything, the names are fake, but the people are real. So with that being said, all right, Teresa, thank you. With that being said, I'm gonna jump right in at the beginning of the book. Now this investigation actually was over 13,000 pages of documents. 13,000 pages of documents. It was a very deep investigation. The main detective name is Bo. That's his nickname. And his partner, or who he was right under him, I think they were right under each other. His name was Roscoe. And the main characters in the book are Galen Green, aka Nephew, and also well, I'm trying to read my notes here. Preston Shine Blade. So Preston, aka Shine, Galen, aka Nephew. That's like two of the main characters in this book. Now, again, we're gonna go all the way to the beginning. 1 second. Okay. This book is just to give y'all a little synopsis. This book, again, is a true crime story of the Mexican cartel meets gang members and drug dealers in Omaha, Nebraska, leading to a drug deal gone bad. And the story, again, is led by the lead investigator of the investigation of 3 murders, a triple murder, and to be exact, it was 3 Mexican men who were murdered and then set on fire. And just a little bit about the author again. His name is Bo. At the time of the investigation, Bo was an 18-year-old vet on the Omaha Police Department. He was born and raised in Omaha. He actually lived in West Omaha, but he got to know a little bit about North Omaha due to attending high school in North Omaha, attending 9th grade in North Omaha. I think it was actually Horace Mann, because he mentioned a 9th grade school. And those of y'all who been in Omaha for a very long time, y'all remember Horace Mann off of 20th. So y'all remember Horace Mann. It used to be like, I think 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Then I think it went to 9th grade. Now it's like a grade school or something like that. Something or other like that. But anyway, and then he also went to Central High School, which is, off of Dodge Street. He also played sports. in North Omaha. He played a lot of sports, so he developed a lot of, interpersonal skills from, dealing with kids from all races, all backgrounds. After high school, he enrolled at UNO. After a few years of not basically, knowing what to major in, like a lot of college students, he decided to take a class in deviant behaviors in the criminal justice department. Now, he actually liked, that class, deviant behaviors, and that also got him a foot into the Omaha Police Department in 1985. In 1985, he became an intern, and he interned in the Youth Services Unit, dealing with mainly runaways and missing person cases. And he was able to locate a lot of missing kids all by himself. And he also, during that time when he was locating missing kids and taking phone calls, investigating missing children and stuff, that kind of helped him decide at that time that he wanted to be a cop, because one of the cases he dealt with was a 1986 case of a boy who was kidnapped and found dead on the outskirts of Omaha, Nebraska. So he was assigned to that task force to investigate the crime. He was one of the call takers on the hotline for an investigation. And at that moment, that is when he said he actually knew he wanted to be a cop. So in 1988, he was hired, and at first he worked as foot patrol, or AKA beat patrol. Now, he was hired for foot patrol or beat patrol at that time, because if a lot of y'all remember, back in 1988, that was like, what? Oh, God, I ain't even gonna say what grade I was in back then. Then y'all know how old I is. But it was like a gang increase, gang activity increase, all through our city, crack cocaine. I mean, it was like really major issues that we were dealing with back in the early 80s, the late 80s, the early 90s. Hey, Doreen Watkins, what up, homegirl? How you doing? But yeah, so they hired him, and he started off doing a beat cop. Now, during that time when he was doing patrol, he started in Vietnam projects, aka Little Vietnam. Y'all know all about Vietnam projects, y'all. Boy, used to go down in the Vietnam projects. But that was kind of off of 24th and Hamilton area over there. And at that time, the Vietnam projects, aka the Little Vietnam, was like the largest housing projects in North Omaha, aka in the hood. And as a beat cop, he worked generally between the hours of like 6 to 2 a.m. In that position, he quickly became familiar with crack cocaine, violence, murder scenes. And he also tells us, like, sometimes when they were, doing foot patrol or beat patrol, how in Vietnam projects, how they would solve a lot of cases was, and a lot of us remember this. I remember this vividly, like really, like people telling stories of cops being in vacant, project buildings. It kind of reminds me of The Wire. Y'all remember The Wire? That used to come on, was it Showtime or HBO? The Wire. And cops used to hide out in buildings and projects and stuff, and they would do surveillance, take pictures, all that, of drug transactions. So all of this stuff, he had a lot of experience in when he was beat patrol in Vietnam projects. Then at the beginning of his 4th year as foot patrol, he was recruited to the narcotics division, which involved more narc investigations, turning some of the arrested criminals into informants. The job involved wiretapping, surveillance, investigations from crimes, from murders to drugs. And a lot of those kind of intertwined. A lot of the drug cases were intertwined with murder cases. A lot of murders were due to bad drug deals or, things like that. And around 2002, the head of the Criminal Investigations Bureau created a new unit called the Special Investigations, which he was recruited to due to his experience in narc and homicide and because of his creative investigation process. Now, because of a lot of investigations that he was involved in that dealt with drugs, being involved in murder cases, One thing he said about his position, which I thought was really interesting, was he said the marriage of narcotic investigations and homicide investigations were very fruitful because they really like intertwined. And instead of cultivating informants like in narc cases, they were now cultivating witnesses into murder cases. And in his unit was sometimes referred to as the narco homicide unit, which became very true in the case of the 3 bodies burning. So let's start this investigation, y'all. And again, make sure y'all like the video on the way in. Hey, on site April. Hey, Booski, what's up? Thanks for coming through to show some support. And you hit the like button. Thank you very much. I sure do appreciate it. So now we know a little bit of background about the head investigator. We're going to jump into the investigation from the jump, straight out the gate. It was once upon a time in a little city called Omaha, Nebraska, on a beautiful spring morning around like 6 a.m. Somebody happened to be driving in the area of 60th and State Street, and they noticed a brush fire in a wooded area a little ways from the side of the road. They then, like anybody, called 911, and when the first officer on the scene arrived, he noticed it was not only a fire, but 3 bodies burning in the fire. The officer, thinking quickly on his feet, grabbed his fire extinguisher from the trunk of his police car and proceeded to put the fire out. Now, this smart and quick thinking was really important, y'all, in the beginning of the investigation. Had he not done that, those 3 bodies wouldn't have been as preserved as they was, for the investigation. And just as quickly as he put the fire out, it became a widespread crime scene. And you already know, if you're from here in the hood, it was all over the news within no time. So this detective, Bo, when he got on the crime scene, he said he noticed how strange the placement and the conditions of the bodies was. The bodies was like piled all on top of each other like logs, and the pants of the men were pulled down, to like their ankles, to the bottom of their legs, making it kind of look like there was possibly some sex acts had taken place, or something like that, or it could possibly have been a sign of disrespect by the murderers. But soon they realized that the bodies were dead weight because they were burned. Well, they were killed first, they were shot, and then they were burned. So the pants falling down or being pulled down wasn't done purposely. They actually had to drag the bodies to the location out of the vehicle that they were transported in, and that's how their pants fell down. So there was no sexual acts, none of that going on, which they thought was probably the case in the beginning. And they noticed all 3 of the victims were Hispanic. All 3 of the victims had gunshot wounds to the head. Also, they noticed at the crime scene, there were noticeable tire tracks. There were drops of blood, and the blood was leading like far away from the body. So it wasn't like right by the bodies. So therefore, that told them that the people weren't killed right there because there was a blood trail. So during the autopsy, did I say okay? During the autopsy, it was found to be there was no soot, no kind of smoke, nothing in the lungs, the mouth, the throat, the nostrils, nothing like that from, insulation or from breathing or anything like that. So that was another clue that the bodies were dead before they were burned. So there wasn't also any property. There also wasn't any property on them. No wallets, no jewelry, no keys, no watches, nothing like that. The only thing that they found was a hotel receipt in the pocket of the youngest victim, who also had a star tattoo on his stomach. The receipt on that, the name on that receipt had the name of Barry Willis. Another piece of of evidence was a ripped piece of paper with 6 columns of numbers. Now, there were actually like 140 numbers in the columns ranging from 26.2 to 14, but most of the numbers were between 20 and 22. And at first, they kind of wonder, are these numbers from like some type of drug record or drug deals or something like that? But they said the numbers didn't really represent, ounces or grams or, something consistent with meth or cocaine. And back then, meth wasn't really huge in the Midwest. It was more like, cocaine that was kind of big back then, and weed, stuff like that. But, until they figured out what the numbers meant, they followed up on the hotel receipt that they found from the pocket of the youngest Mexican. That led them to a home in Phoenix, Arizona, which is how they discovered from family members that John Doe number 1 and John Doe number 2 were both in the Omaha area. The family gave them pictures of the men, so the police was able to identify, they were able to match them up. They were able to identify them. They also got their fingerprints from the Arizona database, so they were able to confirm who John Doe 1 and John Doe 2 was. They were actually Ricardo Gomez, aka Richie, and his half-brother, Barry Willis, who had the same moms, but different dads. Now, remember again, these names in this book is altered. So any name that I mention is not the real name of anybody in the book. You got to do your own research, like I did, if you want to know who the real names are of all these characters in the book. So anywho, at the beginning of the investigation, besides the ripped piece of paper that they found with the columns of numbers and the hotel receipt, one of the first leads was a phone call made by somebody who lived in the area of 60th and State Street where the bodies were first discovered. That person called in explaining, how normally in that secluded area around that time, like around 5:30, 6:30, around that early in the morning, there's no traffic when they're on their way to work. But on the morning where the 3 bodies were discovered burning, they said there happened to be a vehicle, like a black, newer, fancy truck, they say like a Chevy Avalanche, but it was really nice, really fancy. I'm assuming they probably had some rims on it, just maybe a little bit tricked out. I don't know. But anywho, it was a nice, fancy car. They noticed that it was stopped at the stop sign on the opposite side of the street facing them. And the person who called in, the male caller, said the driver in the truck and him kind of like, how a car across from you and they coming your way, y'all both got stop signs and y'all like, okay, who went first? Or you go, I don't want to go. They kind of like just stood there like not wanting to go. And so finally the caller, he was like, he went through the intersection, but what he did notice was at the intersection, the other person across from him had their blinker on. But when the caller drove through the intersection, he looked through his rearview mirror and the truck went straight. So it never turned. So that's one thing that the caller, made known to the police. And then another lead they got was there was a rented car by Barry Willis that was found abandoned near Highway 75. And that's like 5 miles north of Omaha. Highway 75 goes through North Omaha, but it also goes out of Omaha. So that car was found like 5 miles outside of Omaha, which was, to be exact, 28 miles from where the victims were found. That rental car was a dark green Pontiac G6, which was searched, but they found no evidence of any foul play, no personal items, no car keys, no nothing. So what happened next is they made a trip to Phoenix to speak with the twin brother of Barry Willis. So Barry Willis, one of the dead guys, he had a twin brother. Now Barry and Richie, they are brothers. The twin brother's name is Carlos Willis. So Richie and Barry was on the trip in Omaha. The twin brother, Carlos of Barry, he was still in Phoenix, so he didn't make that trip to Omaha. Now, they reached out to Barry Willis's twin brother, Carlos. All these boys They are the twins, of course, have the same mom, of course. Richie, he has the same mom, but he has a different father. So that's not really, really important, but I just thought I'd mention it. But anywho, when they first reached out to Carlos over the phone, he was, really interested in talking to him, wanted to help them try to solve the case, the crime of his two brothers. But after they got there, he was really hesitant to talk on the phone. He didn't want to meet them. He didn't want to talk to them. He kept making excuses why he couldn't meet up until, Detective Bo started putting the pressure on him. Like, dude, two of your brothers died and you don't want to help us, find out what happened to your brothers. And so eventually he was like, okay, cool. I'll meet you. So he was a little apprehensive at first, but then you have to, keep in mind his brothers and, they were just murdered. And somebody else. They were just murdered in Omaha, Nebraska. They were killed and then their bodies was burned. And, of course, the brother Carlos, he had to know what they was in Omaha for. So I would be a little apprehensive too to find out my siblings was just murdered and the police want to come looking for me. Like, he actually thought that maybe the people who murdered his brother might try to murder him because they had actually found out that some drugs, some money, it was a bad drug deal that went down. These Mexicans, they didn't have their drugs, they didn't have their money. So he thought that he might be held responsible. So anywho, Carlos, the twin, who was actually with the Air Force Reserves, he said he would meet them in a safe location, which was Luke Air Force Base outside of Phoenix. Now, when they met with Carlos, what they learned was that the people on the other side, lost millions of dollars. The other side is the Mexican cartel. They lost millions of dollars. And again, he thought that they might be coming after him. And that's why he wasn't so hasty to meet up with the detectives. He also told them that his half-brother, Richie, was born in Mexico. And then their mother had moved to the United States. She ended up getting married to Carlos and his twin brother Barry's father. But Richie and their mom never became U.S. citizens. So the twins were U.S. citizens because they were born here in the United States and their father was from the United States. Richie, though, since he was an alien, basically, he couldn't really get a real job. He ended up going to school. He went to college. He even went to college. He graduated from Arizona State University with a business accounting degree, but he still wasn't a citizen. So therefore, he couldn't really get any real jobs. Now, that is what led him into drugs. Into selling drugs. He ended up making some contacts in Mexico by way of his mother because his mother was also, remember, she's an alien as well. So she also was involved with drug dealers and drug trafficking. So after speaking to Carlos, they sought out a guy named Bully, who Carlos said was getting weed from his brother Richie. And that Bully had a connection in Omaha with a black dude by the nickname of Shine, who was somehow connected to a barbershop. At that time, they didn't know if the barbershop was in Omaha. They didn't know if the barbershop was in Arizona. They just knew that this guy with the nickname of Shine was somehow connected to a barbershop. And they also found out that on Richie's last trip to Omaha before he was killed, he was there to collect money from a large shipment of weed, like several $1 million of weed. And Carlos's twin brother, Barry, he was just there for the ride, just to keep Richie company, just for moral support, I guess. But he did, keep him company all the way to the very end. They started that ride together and they died together. Let me take a drink on that. Everybody who's just coming in, make sure you hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Again, feel free to comment in the chat. Anything about the story, anything about the book, anything about the weather. I don't mind. So After speaking with Carlos, they met with Barry's girlfriend, Courtney, who told them her last contact with Barry was around 9 p.m., which was 9 p.m. in Arizona, 11 p.m. here in Omaha. And at that time, he was at a drugstore to buy some tape and a calculator for counting money and taping up, taping it up. And the girlfriend, she didn't hesitate at all. Like, she told the police right off the bat, yeah, he was at the drugstore. He went to get some tape. He went to get a calculator because he wanted to count some money and tape it up. She knew all about why her boyfriend and his brother and them was in Omaha, Nebraska. They basically then contacted the credit card company and verified that Barry was in fact, and Richie was in fact at the Walgreens in Omaha, Nebraska. And then while they were still in Phoenix, the detectives, while they were still down there at the beginning of their investigation, they got another call from a lady who claimed to be the wife of John Doe number 3. Now, come to find out, John Doe number 3 is Florino Gonzalez. He also made the trip with Richie and Barry. Now, the reason why Florino came on the trip was because he actually had a debt with the Mexican cartel. Some of his recent transactions had came up short. I don't know if it was money, drugs, whatever, but he owed them a debt. So they had him go along to make sure everything on this trip to Omaha went right, especially when they were supposed to collect the money in Omaha. Now, with John Doe number 3, one of the 3 bodies that was burning, they actually couldn't do no fingerprints. They couldn't do a picture. They couldn't do anything like that to identify him. What they had to do actually, they had to do a DNA comparison from one of his family members. That's how bad his body was burned. His feet, like if you read the book is really graphic. It shows you pictures of the body, of all the crime scenes. It shows the pictures of Florino. His hands was just burnt off. His leg, the bottom part of his legs was over here, one over here. His face was totally, burnt off. So they couldn't identify him by nothing but DNA. So they were still able to basically, identify that person. So now we know who all the 3 bodies are. All the 3 Mexican men who was killed and then burned in Omaha, Nebraska. So before returning to Omaha, they needed to find out who Bully was, because remember, Bully was getting his drugs from Richie, one of the dead men. So they contacted the gang detectives in Phoenix at the police station. And after researching the database, they found out that Bully is actually Jesse Romo, who has a brother named Adam Romo. Those 2 bros ran with guys by the name of Derek Malo, Kenny Boston, and Beto Rojas. The entire crew, this entire Arizona crew, they was involved in home invasion robberies and also drug deals. So the detectives went to visit Bully's house, and his brother Adam, aka Zeke, a young Hispanic kid in his early 20s, answered the door and said he didn't know where his brother Bully was. Now, Adam, aka Zeke, he was actually willing to talk to the detectives, though. Even though he was incriminating himself in a lot of drug deals, he still told the cops everything he knew involving him, Richie, and the black dude in Omaha named Shine, who they met by way of 2 guys named KB and Roy, which happened to be Kenny Boston and Derek Malo, some of the same names that was provided by the Phoenix gang unit. Now, Derek Malo, he was at the time in jail for robbery in Arizona. Kenny Boston was actually on the run for an attempted murder. He done shot some guy like 6 times for something very, very minor. But anywho, I guess he had a message to send. He done shot some dude up 6 times. So he was on the run for an attempted murder warrant. But since the shooting happened on May 4th, the day before the 3 bodies were found, they knew that Kenny had a pretty good alibi He wasn't in Omaha, so they could cross him off the list, but they still had to question him. So first they visited Derek in jail. Derek wasn't too cooperative because basically, you know how it is. People be in jail, detectives come and holler at them. It's like, what's in it for me? What can y'all do for me? If I talk, what do I get? They couldn't really promise him anything. So he was like, I ain't talking to y'all then. So the police was like, well, F him then. We already know about a lot that he been involved in, a lot of the gang stuff and everything like that from what Zeke had told him. So they can indict him on charges later and then possibly make him talk then. So basically, they now had an association chart that they can go off of the Arizona crew in Omaha. They connected him with the two people the Arizona crew, they connected them with the people in Omaha. So they had something of an association chart. And they will deal with Kenny Boston whenever he gets caught up on his murder charge. And let me just pull up my little hold on. Hold on 1 minute. Okay. So far, their association chart. The victims, Barry Williams, half-brother of Ricardo Gomez, a.k.a. Richie. The third victim is Florino Gonzalez. Connected to the Arizona crew, Jesse Romo, a.k.a. Bully, Adam Romo, a.k.a. Zeke, Kenny Boston, a.k.a. KB, Derek Malo, a.k.a. Roy, and the Omaha connection was Shine and Nephew. So that was the beginning of their chart association. Now, once they returned back to Omaha, their first mission at hand was to find out who is this big black guy named Shine who runs with somebody named Nephew. And again, these names are altered. So a lot of y'all might know the real names of these characters, but they're altered in the book. Now, from what they knew at that time, Shine, he's black, clean cut, about 6'2", about 220 pounds, and Nephew was a little bit bigger than Shine. But after checking the police database, they couldn't find those nicknames in the database. But what they did find out was the information that Carlos gave them regarding their mother and on Richie being illegal aliens, they found out that was true. So basically what he was told them was true. Carlos and Barry was legal citizens. They ended up talking to actually their mother, Maria. You know, her and Richie was aliens. Carlos and Barry was citizens. So they ended up talking to Maria. But Maria really didn't have no knowledge of nothing that goes on in Omaha. She really didn't have no knowledge on what her children did or who they ran with or, you know, anything like that. Maria was doing her own thing. She was smuggling drugs. She got caught several times smuggling drugs from, you know, Arizona to Mexico. She got arrested many times. She got deported many times. She was doing her own little thing. So although she really wanted to help the police officers out at the time, like she really was upset because 2 of her 3 sons had been murdered. And she had no knowledge. She couldn't help them with the investigation at all. So that there was no lead in that. But one day, out the clear blue, they got a big break in the case. Bo's secretary had said some undercover narcotics cop from Tempe, Arizona was on the phone with information regarding the triple murder that took place here in Omaha. Now, the cop was making an undercover transaction in Arizona with some of the Arizona crew, specifically Beto Rojas. Now, Beto just happened to mention that, you know, he happened to mention the 3 murders that happened in Omaha, Nebraska, and he was talking about, you know, how he bravely escaped being murdered. He was up there bragging, yeah, I was there, I got away, you know, 3 people was dead, you know, whoop, whoop, whoop. So the next undercover delivery was scheduled for the next week for like 50 pounds of weed. So what Bo did, he got permission, you know, from his seniority, his supervisor in Omaha, to take another trip down to Arizona because they wanted to be there for the bus and they wanted to be there to be able to interview Beto and ask him some questions. So they got permission to head back to Arizona. And then also the undercover cop sent them a tape of the conversation as well, so they can listen to it before they got there. But when they got there, they were able to not only talk to Beto, but they also found out that Kenny Boston, who was on the run for that attempted murder warrant, he had got in jail. So he had got arrested. He got booked. So basically they would be able to kill two birds with one stone. So after they got back to Arizona, they met first with the undercover detective. They reconfirmed with the gang unit the names of the crew, which is, involved with Beto. And those names again are Beto Rojas, aka Junior, Jesse Bully Romo, Adam Zeke Romo, Derek Roy Malo, and Kenny Boston. And Beto Rojas was actually at the bottom of the hierarchy of that crew. So they also made arrangements to interview Kenny Boston. He was still at the Maricopa County Jail on that attempted murder charge. Now, Kenny, just to describe him, he was a huge black guy, all muscles, not an ounce of fat, about 300 pounds, looking every bit of a football player. They gave Kenny the rundown on why they was there, what their intentions of, and again, like the average criminal, he was like, what's in it for me? What y'all gonna do for me? What do I get out of this if I cooperate with y'all? So again, they told him they couldn't promise him anything. But, your friend, Richie, was murdered in Omaha. So wouldn't you want to do right by him and try to help out the case? So eventually he felt comfortable enough to talk about it with the cops. So what had happened then was, since he wanted justice for his friend Richie, he agreed to talk to them. This is where we find out how it all began. So make sure y'all paying attention now. We find out how the Midwest and the Arizona crew first made connections. Kenny recalled how he was just hanging out about, around at a convenience store called Circle K in Arizona, smoking a joint, and some big black dude by the name of Sean walked up to him, and he said he was from Omaha, and he was trying to get the hookup. After they made a little small talk, Kenny was trying to feel him out. He was a stranger, after all, from the Midwest, from a total different city. So he was trying to, feel him out, make sure he wasn't about to get set up, it was a sting, or get robbed. So once he felt comfortable, he relaxed, and he told him, okay, I can hook you up. So the next day, Kenny had 60 pounds of weed sent to the brothers Jesse Bully Romo and Adam Romo's home. Kenny was also living there because at that time he didn't have a place to stay. So after that first transaction with the 60 pounds of weed, he said there was no mishaps. Everything went smoothly. And then from after that, it led to more and more transactions and bigger transactions, getting as large as 600 pounds of weed. And per Kenny, things at first was cool. Things was all good in the hood at first. Everybody, including him, Jesse Romo, his brother Adam, Derek, and their plug, Richie, one of the three dead guys, by the way. They were all making money. And the Mexican cartel, of course, was making money, which was Richie's plug. So everybody was making money. Kenny was actually getting $50 on the sale price per pound. So every pound that he sold, he was getting $50. Now, Shine, he was making a killing. Because at that time in Omaha, for the drugs that he was trying to sell, for the drugs that he purchased in Arizona, it cost him like $300 per pound in Arizona. In Nebraska, here in Omaha, they would have went for the price of $1,000 to $1,200. Y'all see the profit there? Yeah. He would have to pay $1,000 to $1,200 in Omaha per pound and $300 per pound in Arizona. So he was making like $700 or more, profit per pound. And, probably a little more, just depending on, his negotiating skills in Omaha. But let's say he was making $700 at least for profit, and he bought 600 pounds of weed. 700 times 600, that's $420,000 in one transaction. Profit. That's $500,000. Y'all, that's one transaction. $420,000 profit. So, anywho, that was a lot of money, but he wasn't satisfied. He wanted to make more money. So what he started to do, this is per Kenny, what Shine started to do, the Omaha dealer, what he started to do, he went behind Kenny's back, started discussing business with some of Kenny's other crew members. Jesse Bully Romo and Derek, to be exact. He started negotiating better deals, which Kenny claimed that, it was no big deal. He didn't have a problem with that. But I don't know if I can really believe that. You making all that money, $50 per pound, and you don't care that the person you selling to went behind your back and started buying from your homeboys that you live with. But anyway, one day Shine happened to be, when he was making one of the transactions from Jesse and Derek at their home in Arizona, he was there to pick up a load, and he actually ran into Richie, who was the Arizona crew's plug. So he actually ran into the guy next to the cartel, basically. So y'all know what that means. Shine then approached Richie, so he didn't left Kenny. He went to Jesse. He went to Derek. Then he went to their other friend, Richie. He just kept going person to person till he could get the best deal. Getting greedy. So he approached Richie, and he sold him on the deal to have a much bigger load transported directly to Omaha. Because at that time, Shine and nephew, they was going back and forth from Omaha to Arizona. So he was trying to get like a much bigger load and have them just send it all the way to Omaha. So Kenny, he had mentioned that in Atlanta, Georgia, there was a huge load of weed there. But for some reason, the buyers had to back out. So it was all this weed sitting in Atlanta. They were able to sell off, a little portion of the drugs in that Atlanta location, but there was still like 1,000 pounds of weed left that they needed to sell. So this was like right up Richie's alley. He was like, you want a whole bunch of weed? You want it to go straight to, it's sitting in Atlanta in a truck. Sitting right in Atlanta in a truck. So what they did was they all went to Atlanta. They met at some club called Strokers. Now, this club is actually real. Out of all the names in this book that was altered from the real names, the club is actually, I even looked up the club to make sure the club was real. So the club was real. Now, if Shine and nephew were to get this 1,000 pounds of weed, that would technically mean like $700,000 profit. Almost. There was a charge. There was like an upsell of the load. It had to increase by a couple of $100 because of the fact Shine and nephew was no longer going to be driving back and forth to Omaha to get these big loads. Somebody was going to bring it to them. So they had to pay for that. But technically speaking, that he was still making a killing off of that $1,000. So they went ahead, they discussed that business. Kenny witnessed it, when they was at the club in Atlanta. He witnesses the whole transaction, the negotiations and everything. Shine and nephew was going to make a huge profit. So the Omaha detectives, just from that break, They found out a lot of information from Kenny. And thank goodness, because the dude that was in jail, Beto Rojas, you know, he wasn't trying to talk. He was like, if y'all can't, you know, get me out of here, reduce my charges or something like that, I don't want to talk to y'all. And then to come to find out, he lied. Remember when he said, I got away, 3 people got murdered and was set on fire in Omaha, but I got away, I bravely escaped? This fool lied. That was the whole reason why the undercover cop called Omaha in the first place, because he was talking about that killing. Now he was associated with some people that was involved in Omaha, but he wasn't there and he didn't get away from nobody. His butt was in Arizona the whole time, but he was trying to, you know, make it seem like he was big and bad, like he had done something, you know, just trying to brag, you know, to the people around him. So kind of find out he was never even in Omaha. But before they had a chance to talk to Jesse, you know, Romo, Jesse in Arizona, he had found out that Detective Bo and them was looking for him. So what he did was he called Detective Bo and he was like, I'll talk to you guys. So basically, after speaking with Jesse Bully Romo, they confirmed again the Atlanta deal, the negotiations. Even though Jesse claimed he didn't have no dealings with the drugs, he's not a drug dealer. He was just one of those again, just for the ride, just there for support, just there to tag along. The detectives were able to confirm with the airlines that indeed the Arizona crew, they had flown from Atlanta to Arizona. None of them flew to Omaha in May of 2005, but they still at that time could not confirm who Shine and nephew was. They couldn't confirm if they traveled to Atlanta. They couldn't confirm if they traveled to Arizona because they still at that time didn't have their real names. Not yet. But 6 months later, they back in Omaha, Nebraska. Detective Bo, they back in Omaha. They get another big break. Somebody by the name of Montel Jones, who again, the names in this story are altered, but somebody by the name of Montel Jones, he actually had a felony assault shooting. Somebody had shot him. Somebody shot him in the leg. Now, he just happened to mention that the person who shot him was a guy by the name of Preston Blade, aka Shine, and Galen Green, aka Nephew. Big break, huh? They finally found out who Shine and Nephew is. Now, at that time, they still couldn't really pin anything on them. Their names been flying around, but they still couldn't pin it. They had a lot of research that they had to start doing on this Shine and this Nephew. And again, it's been like 6 months, you know, since their last big break. So this was really, really, really a great lead for them. Now what was going to happen is they have to interview Montel Jones. They did an interview with him. And found out that, well, actually, when they asked him, you know, what had happened, why you get shot in the first place, he tried to lie and try to cover it up. You know, I don't know why I got shot. But finally, he confessed. He confessed that he had heard that these 2 people, Shine and Nephew, they was getting money in these Omaha streets. And recently, he had found out they was getting a whole lot of money in these Omaha streets. And he wanted a piece of the action. So what he did, he concocted this plan where he was going to find one of their stash houses and he was going to have one of his homies. He enlisted one of his friends named Wilson Mack and help him do a home invasion on one of the stash houses. They found out where one of the stash houses was. They went to the location to do their home invasion, but come to find out, nobody was there. The house was empty. So all they had to do was just, break in and rob the joint. But they didn't get any cash, but they did get a lot of drugs. They got like 10 pounds of weed or something, which was like a street profit value of approximately at that time, like $5,000. So they had these names now. Now they had to do like background checks. They had to do research. They had to go through like historical police reports, police contacts, phone numbers, vehicles, property owned, financial assets, friends, gang affiliations, their daily routines, their travel history from airlines from Phoenix to Arizona. They had a lot on their plate, a lot of research they had to do on these two people who they just found out who they was. So, this guy, Montel, he actually had hit a lick. They got off pretty good. They got off about $5,000 profit, 10 pounds of weed, but everything was all good in the hood again until they sold some of the weed to one of Shine and Nephew's guys. And in little old Omaha, Nebraska, word gets around quick. So what had happened was, hey, Shot Stockton, hey, boo, how you doing, girl? Make sure you like and share the video. Thank you so much. Everybody coming in, make sure you please like and share the video. Montel, he ended up selling some weed to the wrong peoples. Those peoples was peoples of Shine and Nephews. And again, Omaha ain't that big. So word got around. It got back to Shine and Nephew. That's who had most likely stolen their weed, who broke into their stash house. So they had planned on shooting him, which they actually did. They shot him. But before they shot him, they asked him who his accomplice was, and he gave up his friend, Wilson Mack. Now, Montel, he never really made it to the end of the investigation because he actually would eventually meet his fate later on with death in an unrelated incident. A lot of y'all might remember the Hog Tie Bandit from back in the day. That was Montel. He garnered the name the Hog Tie Bandit due to him tying up victims during robberies, specifically like convenience store robberies. And the thing about it was with this guy, they said he was actually, really smart, very articulate. He was a plumber by trade. So he could have possibly, made an honest living, and didn't end up, slanging or getting shot or getting killed. But, who knows? Who knows what our, fate is. But anyhow, as far as that Wilson Mack goes, when the detectives met him, they interviewed him. He had told them that a few weeks after Montel was shot by Shine, he had heard that they was also looking for him because Montel gave his name up. So he prepared himself. He was like, all right, they ain't about to just come and hit me, come attack me. I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to be ready for these fools. So one night, one of Wilson's friends alerted him that Shine and them was on the block. And they was coming for him. So what he did was he went, grabbed his SKS rifle, walked out on his front porch, saw Shine and them coming down the street, and proceeded to unload round after round after round into Shine and them car. The car actually that got shot up happened to be Nephew's girlfriend's car, by the way. But yeah, Shine and Nephew, they got out, they jumped out, they ran, but they did manage to get off a couple of shots, in the chaos. And this incident was reported, so the police were able to verify the report, verify the shooting, and all that. One of the persons in the neighborhood, one of the people's homes had got shot, so they also filed a report. So they were able, hold on, let me grab my little chart. They was able to basically confirm more people on their association chart. So now we start off with the victims. Barry Williams, half-brother Ricardo Gomez, aka Richie, and Floreno Gonzalez. Those were the three murder victims. Arizona crew, Jesse, Adam, Kenny Boston, Derek, Beto. Omaha crew, um, Nephew and Shine, and they updated their chart. So they now have on there Shine shot at Wilson Mack, Montel and Wilson stole from Preston and Nephew. So they were able to update their chart again, add a few more names onto the investigation. So now with these new leads that the detective got, they started doing some more research on Shine and on Nephew. They found out that Preston Shine had actually been arrested before for dealing crack cocaine. He even had a pending charge at that time for possession of a firearm resulting from a vehicle search in a parking lot at a hospital. Now, what had happened was Nephew had been shot in the arm. And Shine, he had went to the hospital, to be there to support or whatnot. And a disturbance happened, and he was involved in a disturbance at the hospital. The police came out. They found a handgun in Shine's under his seat. Now, remember the morning of the crime scene, y'all. Remember when the 3 bodies was burning? Remember when the first call they got, the first tip was a passerby who actually lived in the neighborhood, and he called and he said that he had seen a specific truck at the intersection at that time. He noticed a black Chevy Avalanche at the scene at that time. Y'all remember? Okay, so Shine, guess what he was driving at the hospital? A black Chevy Z71 Avalanche. So, along with the gun that they found under his seat, they also found a whole bunch of blood, because Nephew had got shot. So there was a whole bunch of blood in the truck. They also found 4 pounds of weed in the truck. But due to them not having a search warrant, the weed couldn't be used in court. But the gun, there still was a pending gun charge. But with them finding this 4 pounds of weed, that was more proof against Shine and against Nephew that they were most likely slanging weed out here in these Omaha streets. So after discovering all of that, Detective Bo, he reached out to a county attorney at that time. Her name was Georgianne Goldstein. He had asked her to reconsider dropping the gun charges against Shine because of the fact they wanted him on the streets. They want him thinking that he's freely able to walk around, make him think he's living a good life, like ain't nothing going on, ain't no situations, ain't nothing that he should be worried about. So they asked her to drop the gun charges, and she obliged. At that time, she obliged. She dropped the gun charges. But along with that 4 pounds of weed that they found in the truck, Preston Shine Blade, he had been arrested like 2.5 weeks after the 3 burned bodies were discovered. During that time, the police confiscated a 1/2 pound of weed, over $12,000, and 2 cell phones. And you know how normally when you go to jail, you get locked up. They take all your personal property. They take your clothes. They take your jewelry. They take your watches. They take your money. They take your phone, everything. They take everything that's on your person or, maybe even in your vehicle. They take it. And when you get released, you can get that back. As long as it's not something involved in investigation, you can get it all back. Well, for some reason, Shine did not go back and pick up his belongings. Therefore, Detective Bo, he had access to everything he left behind, including 2 cell phones. Now, we mostly know that people involved in drug dealing or illegal activities, they often keep more than 1 cell phone. They usually have a couple of cell phones, one for maybe family, kids, friends, the other one for their street business. There was 2 cell phones that Shine left behind, and Detective Bo, he grabbed them. So they were able to do a little bit more investigation on the cell phones as well. And also Nephew, he had been pulled over for a speeding ticket like 3 weeks before the bodies were found. During that incident, they confiscated over a pound of weed, and the cops, they also made photocopies, and this is important, y'all. They made photocopies of all the paperwork that they found on nephew, like bank paperwork, credit card receipts, all that. So that was more information, more evidence, more leads in their investigation. So the financial research began. When they started this research, they found all kind of stuff. All kind of stuff. They were able to find out that on May 3rd, a few days before the bodies was discovered, nephew had rented a U-Haul truck from a location in West Omaha. That U-Haul truck has since been sold to a private company. But that private company didn't have no problems letting the detectives, search the truck, even though it had been some time since the truck was used by him and then sold to the new company. They still felt like, well, maybe if we search the U-Haul truck, we might find some blood in it. We might find some weed, paraphernalia, maybe like some seeds or anything like that. They didn't find nothing. But on March 16th, they saw that nephew's credit card had a charge of, and this is where it gets a little confusing, because I read the book several times. I also read a lot of police reports. I also read a lot of the court dockets to prepare myself for this book review. And I got a little confused because in the book, it said that nephew had a credit card charge of $218. But when I looked at the court docs, it showed it was $1,218. So I don't know. I think it might have been really $1,218 because they found out that it was for a hotel in Atlanta called the Hawthorne Suites, which is now known as Shepherd's Hospital for Long Care Patients. So it's no longer a hospital. But the old owner, they happen to be somebody who keeps a lot of their old records and stuff stored up. So they was able to contact the old owner. He did a little digging. He was able to verify that those two men was indeed in Atlanta at the time during that drug deal transaction for that 1,000-pound load of weed. And it was for an 8 to 10 day stay. So I'm thinking even back then, hotels were a little cheaper, but $218 for an 8 to 10 day stay in a hotel, that's really cheap. So I'm inclined to probably think that the real amount was $1,218 for the court docs. But just in case I'm wrong, I would just say the book said $218, the court docs said $1,218. But either way, they were able to verify that they were in Atlanta at that time during the drug deal. So next, the detectives, they contacted the local utility companies like the gas, the electric, phone, cable, and they did that to get specific locations for where Preston Shine Blade and Galen Nephew Green might have been residing or doing business. And what they found out was there was over 14 locations associated with Shine and Nephew. They then also contacted the IRS for tax information. And from that search, they found out that for the prior year, Shine and Nephew had claimed an income of $225,000 and had paid over $30,000 in federal taxes. And their profession or their job was a lawn service. Now, ain't that crazy? We got some dudes that's like involved in some huge major weed deals. And one of their businesses they claim was a grass service. I'm like, yeah, they involved in grass, all right. But anyway, the detectives then started doing surveillance on these lawn service location, which happened to be a commercial property. During that surveillance, they was able to see Shine driving a truck often, and on the truck, on the side of the truck, it had UAF Lawns on there, which I'm sure is a altered name of the company as well, because most of the names in here is altered. But during their surveillance, even though they supposedly had a lawn service, they never saw any lawnmowers, no blowers, no trimmers, nothing associated with cutting lawns or growing grass. But there were people constantly coming in and out of the location all day long. So they knew something was up. They knew something was going down in this location. It wasn't no cutting no grass or planting no seeds or trimming no. It wasn't none of that. But they didn't know what was going on there at first. And then they discovered, from talking to the actual owners or landlords of the commercial location, they found out that the people who were renting the location, they had actually installed a garage door. It was like a high-speed commercial grade garage door that cost thousands to install. Now, those are the kind where you come in, quickly come down. You can't get in there. It's like a really commercial grade garage door that's hard to break in. Now, if they ain't doing no lawns and there's no lawnmowers going in and out, no blowers, no trimmers, no nothing like that, why the heck do they need a garage door like that? That is exactly what the detectives were thinking. So they started to wonder, perhaps, is this the location where the 3 men were murdered before they had been taken to the wooded area, over off of 60th and State Street to be burned? Then, after getting the utility information from that search, the detectives also found out that Shine was paying utilities for another commercial property, which happens to be a barbershop in a small strip mall. Now that barbershop is actually right by a laundromat. The laundromat is still, in fact, in the same location. As far as I know, I would drive up and down Ames Street all the time, and I'll see that laundromat over there. I used to go there sometimes back in the day when my washer broke down. But anyway, it's right off of 60th and Ames Street. So they started to wonder then, was the 3 victims possibly killed in the barbershop and then transported to 60th and State, where their bodies was burned? Because the barbershop was actually like less than 3 miles from where the burning bodies was discovered. And it was basically a straight shot, kind of, it was like 3 miles away with one turn. So literally from 60th and Ames Street all the way to 60th and State, it was like a straight shot with like one turn along the whole route. And being at Ames Street, as most of us know, in Omaha, is a very high traffic volume area. They figured that it might be possible to conceal the sound of gunshots. The laundromat located nearby, at that time, it wasn't really that busy. It was a few other spots available in that strip mall, but they were vacant. And then there were only like a few houses nearby. And again, if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, you can, visualize that area pretty well, where that laundromat was. Well, still is. And then the utility company also told them that Shine had actually stopped paying for utility services at the barbershop like a month after the murders. So the murders took place in May. And by June, they were no longer utilizing the barbershop. And since the barbershop, of course, was empty, the landlords or the owner, they told them that they could come investigate. They could come do some searching and everything. They also had Shine listed as president and nephew listed as vice president of the barbershop. The detectives went. They searched the place. I mean, top to bottom, front to back, all around. They searched that place really, really well and did not find anything. They didn't find any blood. They didn't find nothing. They did not find nothing in the barbershop in that strip mall. But another thing that the landlord or the owners told them was that they had actually been offered a lot of money to buy the whole strip. So not only did they want at that time the barbershop, but they actually wanted to buy the barbershop. They wanted to buy the laundromat. They wanted to buy the other, the other section of the strip mall, which was empty. But the owners was like, it's not up for sale. If it was up for sale, that probably would have been cool. But that literally tells you like how much money these guys was bringing in these Omaha streets. They was getting paid. And even though this was a small strip mall, I think, I'm just trying to visualize it in my head. I think it maybe was like, I don't know, maybe 6 businesses in that mall, like 6 bays in that strip mall. So even though it was a small strip mall, it still would have been very profitable, and it would have cost a lot of money to buy it, even for a small strip mall. So that lets you know, again, they was getting paid. They was out here getting paid. But again, they searched high and low in the barbershop, and the detectives didn't find any clues of any murders. And that is the end of my book review. Part 1, chapters 1 through 19 of 3 Bodies Burning, a true Omaha, Nebraska crime thriller book. You said Noel. You said, yes, honey. Yes, you already know. The projects, I hung out and lived in them projects from time to time growing up in Omaha, Nebraska. I lived there. I hung out there from Vietnam to Southside to Hilltop to Pleasant Green East, Pleasant Green West, and Spencer projects. Yes. But yes, those are Spencer right behind me, by the way. But yeah, so anywho, next Friday, we are going to be doing parts 2 of our book review, which is going to be chapters 20 through 37. And again, the Friday after that, we are going to do chapters 38 through 54. And then the week after that, we are actually going to have a live interview with the author of this book. That is going to be so exciting. I cannot wait to talk to Brian. I cannot wait for us to get a chance to talk to him and discuss with him, the time that he spent doing this book, doing his research and investigation and what he's been up to, ever since then. And actually, he does know all about our live reviews, so he could be watching us right now. He could be watching us right now because he does have the link to our live video. So I told him to feel free to tune in tonight and check out our first live book review on the book that he wrote. So anyway, you guys, make sure you like the video, share the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I don't only do book reviews, I do movie reviews, TV show reviews. We do live interviews, especially with people from Omaha, Nebraska. Recently, we did a live interview on sex trafficking. We did a live interview with Toot, the rapper. A lot of y'all know Toot, the rapper from Omaha. We got some interviews lined up for next month and the month after. We try to promote as much as possible people in Omaha, especially those who are involved in the community, those who are leaders in the community or musicians or people in different work fields. So we try to promote people from Omaha on our channel, and a lot of times it could be anybody. It could be somebody, it could be a nurse. It could be like we're going to have an interview with a black female engineer from Omaha, Nebraska. She's going to be interviewing with us in April. We're going to be interviewing the gospel band called The Chosen Few. They have a concert, a pre-CD release concert next month. We're going to be interviewing them the night before their concert. So we do try to promote people in Omaha, Nebraska, especially if you are doing, major things in Omaha, Nebraska. Let me know. Let me know if you think there's somebody that we should interview on our show. All you have to do is inbox me on Facebook or hit me up on IG. Easy to approach. I'm pretty laid back and chill, easy to talk to. So feel free to hit me up if there's a story, if there's a situation going on in Omaha, if you're trying to promote something, whether it's a concert or a party or a show or an event or anything. A lot of people know that they can just hit me up on Facebook or on IG, send me the flyer, and we will post it on our, the Hood Table Facebook page. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to get up off of here. It's Friday night. I ain't got nothing to do in the morning but sleeping in, but I don't want to keep y'all here all night. I know we had about an hour and a half book review, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. For those of y'all who have not read the book, feel free to still grab the book. You got a week before we do part 2. We got 2 weeks left actually to review the book. So feel free to download the book on Kindle for like $5 or something, or purchase the book if you want to read it yourself, or you want to actually, follow me in the book or whatnot. And hey, Miss Hall, how you doing, babes? You said I'm late. I'm sorry. That's okay. It's okay. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I appreciate you guys anytime I'm live and I'm talking about whatever. So I appreciate you guys. And again, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out some of our past videos. We upload videos like almost every single day. So, you guys, until the meantime, in between time, my Hood Table squad and Tanya's Primetime TV squad, stay safe, be blessed, and I'm out. Deuces.